Hey guys, welcome back. I want to start out by saying thank you to everyone for watching and subscribing and following us along on our journey. We've been on a little bit of a break over the last couple months, and during that time frame we hit 2,100 subscribers. So I want to thank all of you that have stuck with us, and all those, thank you for coming and joining us on this journey. We've had the opportunity during this time to interact with some of you in the comments section. We've been asking questions and have been telling your own stories. I've been glad to be able to speak with you and interact with you, and some of you I've reached out through other means as well. This May we'll be celebrating our 3rd anniversary here on YouTube. In that time you've seen our home develop, you've seen us build our garden, do different projects, and try to make this home in our yard our own. And we've done a lot of things and made a lot of changes, and you've seen a lot of development, not just with the home and our projects, but also our family. This has at its core been a family channel. The boys are a part of this a lot. They interact a lot, they participate, they help out, or they're just in the background playing, as you can see here over my shoulder. And that is what's important to us. That was one of the reasons why we took this time off, is when I had some uninterrupted time with the family over the holidays, and then that spilled out into the new year, where we wanted to spend a little bit more time to not only think about what we wanted to do moving forward with the channel, but also take an opportunity to welcome the newest member of our family, Edith. The boys have been amazing, helping out, giving her snuggles and kisses and showering with kisses at every opportunity. They help out with the feeding and holding her whenever they can. And you'll see Edith pop up in our videos from time to time, just like Graham was when he was first starting to grow up. And now that he is about 3 years old, it's great because he's getting interested in everything we're doing. He wants to help out, he wants to participate, and he's very vocal about it. And you're able to understand him now. And since we've taken that year off, we took some time to reevaluate what we had going right for us, what was going wrong, what changes we can make, and how we can make things a little bit better. And some of the things that really worked out real well for us, first off, was the cattle panel the cattle panel trellises that we built between the different beds, grow beans and cucumbers and peas and different things like that. Those worked out perfectly. They are up there, they're strong. We knocked them in with the T-posts and used the one-man fencing cattle panel connectors that are just fantastic for the job at hand. I'll leave a link for that video so you can check that out and how we use them, as well as a link in the description of where you can pick them up if you're interested in them. But the green beans, they worked out great for us. The bush beans became a little overwhelming. They really filled out a lot, and we were able to get several flushes from them. But our big winner was our pole beans that climbed those trellises. Those pole beans were fantastic. We were able to get multiple flushes from them and get a lot of yield. And we're still actually eating the benefits of it. My boys, just even last night, were just eating away at our dilly beans that we had created. Now, our spicy peppers are the other thing. We had that center bed in the center of the garden that housed all of our peppers, all of our spicy peppers. We grew Carolina Reapers, cayenne peppers, and ghost peppers in that bed. And we were able to make several different types of hot sauces and strawberry pepper jam and different things like that. And it all worked out great. It's excellent. It tastes great. I've got several videos from last year, especially towards the end of the year, where I posted some of those. There was one that I was touting that I was going to bring out, but I'm not quite sure if the hot sauce is exactly what I'm looking for yet. So I'm not going to quite release that video until I tweak the recipe a little bit and refilm it, because it isn't exactly what I'm looking for in the flavor. So we're gonna fix it, and then I'm gonna bring it out. Then the last thing are the pickles. We've figured out a new recipe for making pickles. We were finding that a lot of our pickles that we were canning and jarring up ended up having a little bit of they were real soft when you pull them out of the jar, almost mushy. And one of the things that I found was that the blossom at the end of it can cause that to happen with the entire fruit. So you're supposed to chop that off. So this go around, I chopped those off and I canned some pickles. We had those a couple days ago after sitting for several months, and they turned out great. They still have that crunch, and I think we fixed our problem, found a good method for that. But during the year, we also started making refrigerator pickles. Absolutely, the recipe that I've been using for that is fantastic. I'm going to try it again this year, and I'll show you guys that recipe for how to make these refrigerator pickles that turned out crisp, crunchy, and are packed full of flavor. So stay tuned for that over the summer. Once we get a good cucumber yield, I'll show you guys how to make those as well. Now that brings us to where we could have been better. did have a couple failures this year. We did figure out how to rotate the crops and figure out the best method for rotating the crops, and it worked out real nice for keeping everything in a new spot, especially moving the garlic around the bed, because now this year will be the third location for our garlic to have been moved to. But the rotating of the crops has been beneficial to us, but the problem that we had is the intermixing of the different vegetables together. Because we had too much variety, I grew too much and I wanted to use it all the plants that we had grown. I wanted to use everything, so I tried to put everything in the garden. Well, that did not benefit anyone for any reasons. I mean, they got into the ground, but what ended up happening is either they were, because of the crowding, they were stunted, they didn't grow, they didn't flower, they didn't produce as much fruit as they could, or the fruit they did produce was really dwindled down, or they were competing for nutrients in the soil, and it just didn't work out in some of the different areas. We did plant a lot of variety of tomatoes, and we really were curious to see what we were going to like, what was going to work best. This was the first year where we tried to make a lot of sauce or salsa and try to grow everything to be able to do that. And so we grew a couple different varieties. Some were just experiments because we wanted to check them out and see what they would be like our green sausages, the blueberries, the black seaman tomatoes. They were great. They were fun tomatoes to grow. I'm sure they could have been grown a lot better if I would have attended to them a little bit better and had a little bit more spacing for them, or a little bit more attention and nutrients and everything. Whew, it's getting windy out here. But they were a fun experiment. I probably won't grow them again. They're not going to benefit us for the needs of what we're trying to do with our garden. And we're focusing heavily not only on eating the tomatoes during the year, but also growing stuff for sauce and salsas and tomato purees and canned tomatoes. We want to be able to have that kind of stuff readily available for us for using throughout the year. And some of those varieties that we grew, those heirloom varieties, they're great, including the Mortgage Lifter. Mortgage Lifter produced a 2-pound beefsteak tomato. It was great for the couple that we ate, but it just didn't produce the juice or saucing tomatoes that we needed for all the different things we wanted to use it for. We grew the Wisconsin 55 and the cherry tomatoes too close together. They intertwined, started to choke each other out. We couldn't trim it up enough. We would really have to have had chopped those down to a bare minimum to be able to get a decent yield out of it, but just didn't work out for us. And ended up basically a lot of it started going to waste because we just couldn't keep up with it. We couldn't get some of the stuff, or it just didn't work out for us. Then we move on to our cucumbers. Cucumbers, we planted 3 variety. All 3 variety were great. They tasted great. The problem is we planted too many. I think we planted, if my numbers were right, we're somewhere around 18 cucumber plants of the 3 varieties. It was way too many pickling cucumbers. We had the Wisconsin SMR and the National Pickling Cucumbers, and we just couldn't keep up with it. And because they were planted so close together and there were so many of them, the foliage was so dense, we weren't able to find them a lot of times. So eventually we go out there. It'd be several days they've been out there, and we had these where you're supposed to have a 6 to 8 inch cucumber that would be about 1.5 inches around. It ended up being like 2 or 3 inches around, and it's still holding that 6 to 8 inches, but it'd be this huge 3-inch diameter cucumber that was already yellow, and it just happened like that. So what we want to do is ease up on the number of cucumbers. We're still going to grow a decent variety, still 3 varieties, but we're going to change it up a little bit because we like the slicing cucumbers. The family likes eating that, but we still want to make some of our pickles that we're going to have in store for the year. And the last list of failures, I can give you a quick rundown and kind of what failed on it and what we did wrong. The kale, we got hit by slugs or snails or something of that sort. They just weren't able to recover from. We tried to regrow it in a different area and it just didn't come up. Whether the soil was too tired, it was too hot, didn't get enough water, whatever the reason was, the kale just didn't take off. Cauliflower, it came up, we planted our seedlings, and that's about as much as it did. I think it grew to about 1 inch, but it stayed almost that seedling shape because it started to get overcrowded by a lot of the other things and didn't get as much sunlight as it probably should have because of basil that was right next to it just grew out of control and just became huge. I think our basil plant was almost 2.5 to 3 feet tall by 2.5 feet wide. We had 2 of them right next to each other, and they just got massive. The squash, we tried squash in a grow bag. The grow bag were the fabric grow bags that allowed for a lot of drainage. Well, it allowed good drainage, but didn't allow to maintain enough moisture for everything to grow. So everything dried up almost instantly. It was quick, and none of the squash survived. We did have a couple zucchinis that got really big. That worked out really nice for us, but we only, I think, planted 2 of those. So this year we're going to plant 3. We're going to spread it out a little bit more, give them a little bit more room to grow and feed them, and try to get as many of those. I think the variety we're using is a striped Italian cucumber, or striped Italian zucchini. The kohlrabi, we planted kohlrabi intermixed within our broccoli. Broccoli grew significantly faster than the kohlrabi. As a result, it shadowed them out. Nothing grew, nothing came of it. And then we move on to our broccoli, which bolted almost immediately. It got too hot. We used some of it in different ways, but we really couldn't do a whole lot with it because it bolted. So those are things that we won't necessarily do again. And that interplanting really just destroyed everything. I mean, none of it worked out for us. The watermelon, we did get one watermelon, but it was real small. And I think that was a nutritional nutrient problem in the soil, because we had a couple different melons, the watermelon, we had the cauliflower and something else, all planted in the same little area. And Brussels sprouts. And I can't grow Brussels sprouts, apparently. I'm not sure what I've done wrong. It's probably the same thing, overcrowding, not enough nutrients in the soil. So we're going to hold off on Brussels sprouts this year, and we're going to focus on a few other things. The melon's the same problem with the watermelon, not enough nutrients in the soil, not enough water, not enough space. The potatoes, I tried to grow potatoes in a large 30-gallon grow bag. I was able to get potatoes. I was able to triple the amount of potatoes I got from seed to actual harvest. So I was able, if I planted, I think 12, I got 30 something tomatoes or potatoes out of it. So I was able to get something out of it, but it wasn't worth the amount of effort and time that I put into it. Carrots, same problem with interplanting. I interplanted them in with the tomatoes, thinking they were planted underneath, get a little shade and sun. Chop up the tomato plants up off the ground a little bit and give it a little room. Didn't work. Didn't get what we needed. It seems to be the ongoing problem throughout all of our mistakes is we planted too much, we had too many seedlings, and we tried to use them all. So we overcrowded, we interplanted where we probably shouldn't have, which created even more crowding, and we didn't have enough amendments to the soil or enough to make sure that the soil and the vegetables and the plants got the nutrients that they needed to live and grow healthy and produce the fruit that we're looking for. So I went on to Google Docs and went to Google Drawings and created the garden. Created squares and circles to create a layout for the garden that I laminated so I could end up using wet erase markers to write out exactly what we need. And in the result, it doesn't erase when you touch it. You actually need to get it wet and actually scrub it off. So what I was able to come up with is a plan of attack and strategy and how to organize the garden the best way to make sure that we don't get the overcrowding. We eased up on the amount of things that we were planting and came up with an actual plan. And we really stuck to the major things in the garden while keeping a lot of our greens, our salad mix, and some of our herbs that we want to grow out of the garden, and we're going to plant them into pots and keep them up on our back porch, which gets a lot of sunlight, and be able to use that interdispersingly as we're cooking or as we need to. It's real quick grab out on the porch. Now we have different perennials in the garden that we aren't going to be moving. That we have the 2 beds on the east side of the garden that we've got our blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries. Those aren't going to be moved. Those are going to remain as the berry patch. And then we have our strawberry patch in the center garden, and then our cherry tree on the western portion of the garden. Now I went ahead and labeled these things in clockwise starting with our top right, going to the northeast corner with a number 1 and going clockwise around 1 through 6, labeling the different beds. In this first bed, which is where we had our tomatoes last year and peppers and tomatillos, we're rotating that in with our cucumbers, along with a standalone trellis for our peas, and we're going to be growing pole beans up the large trellis way. Then bed 2, we had all of our peppers here last year. And this year we're going to be focusing on Napoli, Roma, and Wisconsin 55 tomatoes and sweetie tomatoes, along with our tomatillos. Utilizing the arch trellis ways to help grow some of these different tomatoes, especially the sweeties and tomatillos. Those are really vining and get really long, so I'm going to start weaving those through the trellis, give them a little bit more extra support. We go down to bed 3, which houses our cucumbers, our failed tomatoes, the green and blueberry tomatoes, and several root vegetables that just didn't seem to work out for us. This year we'll be planting our pole beans along the arch trellis, and then we are going to be planting all of our peppers. We're going to be planting both our sweet and our spicy peppers in here, and we are really knocking it back. This year we're going to be growing a chocolate, red, and sunbright, as well as banana peppers for our sweet variety. And then we are going to be growing a larger number of jalapenos, maybe about 4 to 5 different plants, which we're going to be starting early. And then 1 or 2 of the Scotch Bonnet, Ghost, and Carolina Reapers. We tried to overwinter our Carolina Reapers and one of our jalapenos. We'll see how that works out here in the spring. We get it out in the garden. Hopefully that comes back, and we'll have some early producers for that. In bed 4, this is where we had our garlic last year. We had a lot of success in the garlic, but we pulled it too early, so everything seemed to be pretty small. It didn't get as big as we wanted it to. And in the corners, it seemed to have rotted out pretty quick. We didn't have a lot of things. So we ended up growing, I think, cucumbers on the west side, and then a couple different pepper varieties on the east side. And then once that was done, we pulled everything out, and then we tried to grow some squash and different things in the center, which never really came up we didn't produce as much as we were hoping to. And because we planted the different things on the side, the peppers and the cucumbers, and they were heavy feeders and needed a lot of water, I do think that really drew a lot of the nutrients away from the soil, away from the bulb production of the garlic. As a result, we had a lot of rot, a lot of decay, worm and bug infestation in our garlic. And we probably, of the 120 plus that we planted, we pulled 75 bulbs. We lost about 50 plus of our the bulbs that we could have produced because of the interplanting that we did. Moving on to bed 6. This bed was made up primarily of our green beans last year. This had our pole beans growing up the side. We had several bush beans in the center, and as well as a huge number of cucumbers. I think we had about 5 cucumber plants in there, as well as about 6 to 8 green bean producers or green bean plants in there as well. And we should have good soil because of the green beans. So we'll intermix everything together, and then in here is where we're going to start growing our zucchini at the northern portion of it, maybe about 3 of them, give them a chance to spread out. And from there, we're going to be growing basil, green beans, and a bunch of greens in our peas. On both in 4 and 5, we're going to be growing peas along the trellis. So I have a trellis. I have a trellis pea that will work great for growing up the trellis there. And the greens, other than the basil, I don't really know what else we're going to grow in there, but for the greens, it's kind of up in the air. We still have to discuss what exactly we want for our greens in the garden there, and we'll plant them, or we'll pick the seeds out, and you'll be surprised as we are when we make our decision. And the last bed is our 6th bed. This is where we had our failures. We had all of our overcrowding and lack of nutrients in the soil for the cauliflower, the melons, the Brussels sprouts. We had our basil and a couple tomato varieties in there as well. So in this bed, if you check out our video, I'll leave a link for it. This is where we started our garlic. I amended the soil, topped it off with new compost, really mixed it all up. We have our garlic in there. The mistake that I made in bed 4 last year, we won't be making this year. If it doesn't come up and it doesn't sprout, then we leave it alone. We're not interplanting anything. We're not adding anything into the soil. I will be providing, probably in the next coming weeks, I'll be adding some more fertilizer to the soil to try to get everything going and really give it a boost and give it a good start for the new year. But that's really it. I'll water it as it needs, but I won't be adding anything else to the soil other than this next feeding. But that's it for the gardens, for the beds. Then we move into our center beds. We've got a couple things. Our center bed, the northernmost center bed, is where we had all of our spicy peppers last year. And we're obviously not doing that. We're moving that to bed 3 in the front. This one I'm designating completely kohlrabi. I really do want to grow it. I want to try it. It's a great snack thing. The boys like munching on it. So I'm going to try my hand at growing a bunch of kohlrabi there. But then also maybe a couple of root varieties, maybe some radishes, and kind of just stagger them where it's kohlrabi in the back and in the front will be the radishes. The radishes are much smaller. They don't have as big of leaves. We'll spread them all out so we can get maybe a dozen or 2 of those, and then the kohlrabi as well. And then if we need to switch out the production, just move the kohlrabi to the front for the second planting, we can do that. And that's it for our garden. We got everything set up. We have it organized in a way that I believe it's going to create enough organization and enough we knock back our varieties to what we believe we're going to be using and what we can best utilize. And we're going to spread everything out appropriately. I'm going to grow as much as I can for seedlings to try to make sure we have enough. I'm only going to plant what's necessary for the garden and appropriately space everything so I can actually ensure that we have a good production, high crop, high yield, so we can use everything that's necessary. Anything else that we have for small plants, I'll be giving away to the people locally or at work. So that's about it for that. As for the rest of the projects, we do have a lot of videos coming out here in the near future. It's really picking up and getting windy out here, so we're going to wrap up. We do have a lot of things that we've been working on. I got a lot of projects that are coming up. Woodworking projects, home improvement things, easy ways to help update the house. I've got a variety of electrical things I've been working on. I've got a couple recipes I've been working on. So stay tuned. We have a lot of things to come. We got our boys that have been helping me out immensely. And we have the newest member, baby Edith, that is going to be a part of us and in our videos, and you'll be able to see her grow up. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I'm always in there. I'm ready to answer any sort of questions you have and help out in any way, shape, or form. If I don't have an answer for you right away, I will find you any sort of answer that I can, and I'll get it to you as soon as possible. And that's it, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.